Hi lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda's channel. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload a video, you'll be the first person to be notified. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for all the love and support. To those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, you guys are the real MVP. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Alright lovelies, let's get in today's video. So lovelies, all because Israel thinks that USA is watching the Super Bowl and everyone is so distracted, they actually had this opportunity to go ahead and bomb Gaza. So I was just going through my For You page on TikTok and I stumbled across this video, and this actually got me thinking, like, I thought this issue has been resolved. Guys, I'm just gonna roll the clip as well as the stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying, harassment or whatsoever. We are just here for educational purposes. Guys, please share this video, subscribe if you're yet to do that, and let's get into it.
Now at 4:45 a.m. in Palestine, Israel has decided to bomb Rafah, knowing that all the Americans would be watching the Super Bowl and there would be less attention on their actions. If you don't know how deadly their bombardment is right now, we have had this information for less than 40 minutes and 140 Palestinians have been killed, not including the people under the rubble, not including the people who are now injured and will be killed later. There are 1.5 million people in Rafah, and Rafah is 63 square kilometers. So there are 24,000 Palestinians per square mile. And they're just relentlessly dropping bombs on them. Men, women, and children. Knowing that majority of America is going to be distracted by the Super Bowl. I know it feels like this is happening every day, and I know it's hard to have hope right now, but please spread this information.
Israel.
This is insane. I don't know what else to do except for boost this, so please boost this as much as you can. This is genocide. Clear as day. And anyone who tells you differently
to go ahead
is genocidal. Right now, at 4:45 a.m. in Palestine, Israel has decided to bomb Rafah, knowing that all the Americans would be watching the Super Bowl and there would be less attention on their actions. If you don't know how deadly their bombardment is right now, we have had this information for less than 40 minutes and 140 Palestinians have been killed, not including the people under the rubble, not including the people who are now injured and will be killed later. There are 1.5 million people in Rafah, and Rafah is 63 square kilometers. So there are 24,000 Palestinians per square mile.
Because
and they're just relentlessly dropping bombs on them. Men, women, and children. Knowing that majority of America is going to be distracted by the Super Bowl. I know it feels like this is happening every day, and I know it's hard to have hope right now, but please spread this information. This is insane. I don't know what else to do except for boost this, so please boost this as much as you can. This is genocide. Clear as day. And anyone who tells you differently is genocide.
Here's what Rafah
Please
looked
leave
like
me your own thought
back
in the comment
October.
section of
Here's
what you
what
think
Rafah looks
of
like
this
now
video.
in February.
And do not forget that we do
here's
not
a closer
support
look at
any form
Rafah,
of
which
bullying,
is a refugee
harassment
camp
or
that now
whatsoever.
houses
We are just here
1.5
for
million
educational
Palestinians
purposes.
that have been displaced
Guys, please share this
due
video,
to Israel's
subscribe if
genocide
you're
in
yet to do
Gaza.
that,
They were
and
driven
let's
from
get
the
into
north
it.
all the way south to this border town next to Egypt, where they were told would be safe. But tonight, while most of America is watching some stupid football game, Israel is attacking this area. They're bombing it in preparation for the land invasion to complete the ethnic cleansing that they have been planning.
For every single person who is still not loudly proclaiming their support for Palestine and Palestinians everywhere, your point of no return is just about here. Israel has just ordered the evacuation of Rafah. The problem being, you can't evacuate Rafah. The only way that they have been getting away with this genocide has been continually telling everyone that no, they're not targeting civilians because they're telling all of the civilians to head south where it's safe. Of course, they've still continued to bomb evacuation routes. They've continued to bomb the south in general. They've continued to bomb all of Gaza, but they have been continually saying if they head south towards Rafah, they will be safe. And now that they have made everywhere else in Gaza uninhabitable, and they have locked down every single border and made escape impossible, they are saying, actually, we are also going to attack Rafah, and you need to evacuate. Where? This is them saying, this is it. We are eliminating everyone. That's what this is. They're hoping all of you out there who are still not actively trying to stop Israel are too stupid to realize what they are doing until after it's done. They have spent 4 months confining 2 million people to the smallest plot of land 2 million people have possibly ever existed on. And now that they are all there, so highly concentrated that it is impossible to not cause mass casualties with every single bomb, they are going to start a bombing campaign. And it is wild that we are even saying that they are going to start a bombing campaign there, because they've already been bombing. But what they are saying is that they are going to bomb so much harder and so much more intensely. How can you draw any other conclusion than they are trying to eliminate all life there? Short of the use of nuclear arms, I literally cannot fathom a more efficient way to end so many lives. The people who are pretending like the civilian casualties are some sort of unfortunate accident are ignoring the fact that they could not have planned a better way to kill so many people if they tried. And if you think that you can just let it happen, that you can just talk about it like it is some sort of terrible thing that happened in the past that you had nothing to do with, well, think again. Because even if they do succeed in eliminating every single life in Gaza, they could never, ever end every Palestinian. Because of Israel, Palestinians are everywhere, and they remember. And that is nothing compared to the billions of other people who stand in solidarity with Palestinians who will never, ever let you forget. History sees you. Your descendants see you. They see what you are saying and what you are doing right now when it matters most. To speak now is salvation in the eyes of history. Silence is damnation.
This is Gaza. This is Egypt. This is the border between Gaza and Egypt. This is the border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. One more time. Gaza, Egypt, border between Gaza and Egypt. When people talk about Gaza being the largest open-air prison in the world, and Israel or the Israelis or the Zionists holding 2.3 million Palestinians hostage, 50% of them children, in this open-air prison, what they're really talking about is the blockade on Gaza. But what is the blockade on Gaza? In practical terms, a blockade on Gaza means that the Gaza Strip is surrounded by a border fence on all sides of their land, and it has no seaport along the Mediterranean Sea. Nothing and no one can enter or leave Gaza unless it goes through Erez crossing into Israel or Rafah crossing into Egypt. And Gaza has no airport. The Gaza Strip is 41 kilometers or 25 miles long, and in most places less than 5 miles or 8 kilometers wide. It hasn't always been this way. A temporary blockade began in 2005, and the current blockade has been in place since 2007. And who set it into place? Whose policy is this? Israel's and Egypt's. It is a joint Egyptian-Israeli policy in response to Hamas's takeover of the Gaza Strip. How did we get here? In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew 21 settlements from the Gaza Strip. All of these blue areas that you see here were Israeli settlements. 8,000 Israeli civilians were evacuated. Not a single Israeli has lived in Gaza since. A year later, we had the Palestinian national elections in 2006, and Hamas won, democratically elected by a majority of Palestinians voting in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. This led to a kind of civil war between Fatah and Hamas, and it reached its peak in 2007 in the Battle of Gaza, when Hamas took over Gaza and violently expelled all PA or Fatah members. This also involved torture, murder, mutilation. It was a brutal takeover. Following the takeover, Egypt was very worried about Gaza becoming a hotbed of Iranian influence. And the Egyptian government, which was supporting the PA, argued that it was in Egyptian national interest to restrict the border crossing with Gaza and impose the blockade. And who agreed? None other than the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, who has publicly and explicitly supported elements of the blockade, including destroying Hamas's tunnels along the Egyptian border. And why would we want to destroy those tunnels? Because Hamas was trafficking arms, weapons. Abbas is on record saying the PA supports the closing of tunnels to prevent the trafficking of arms and the passage of people between Gaza and Egypt. And even said we will continue to support any measure protecting Egypt from danger. Protecting Egypt from danger. And this is no secret. For example, this article from the Middle East Policy Council is talking about the negative, disastrous impact of the blockade and the siege on Gaza perpetuated by Egypt. And in this current war, in this current crisis, Egypt is still clinging to the blockade. Why? It doesn't want to open its borders for fear of a refugee crisis, financial strains, permanent displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, possible militancy, Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters going into the Sinai Desert. Being against a blockade on Gaza on humanitarian grounds is a legitimate position, but it's not exclusively an Israeli policy. Blockade on Gaza is as much an Egyptian policy as it is an Israeli policy. And at any time, not only can Egypt open its border with Gaza, it can provide electricity, water, internet, any essential services through its own sovereign border. If this is really an open-air prison, and Israel wants it that way, and doesn't want it to change, then the solution lies with Egypt.
So while you're sitting on your couch obsessing over Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, Israel's actively bombing Rafah. If you didn't know, Rafah was the last safe zone for Palestinians living in Gaza. For months now, Israel has been telling the people, go down south. You'll be safe in Rafah. It's a safe zone. So this 25 square mile area is holding 1.4 million people, and now Israel's bombing it indiscriminately. And what really gets me is while Israel's literally killing hundreds of people per hour, they're having their BS Israeli propaganda commercial playing during the Super Bowl. For the love of God, can you people use some critical thinking skills and realize this is all intentional? They did this to the Palestinians as possible.
Breaking news, Egypt has sent 40-some tanks to the Sinai up against the Gaza border to prevent any Gazans from fleeing into their country. Remember, the Egyptian Prime Minister said the country would sacrifice 1 million of their lives to make sure that the Gazans do not enter into that land. How many pro-Palestinians do you guys think are protesting, writing, talking about, making videos about these extreme measures that Egypt is taking to prevent what we should assume is just civilians? But I guess that's just an internal conflict, right? Doesn't really matter. Not worth talking about if it has nothing to do with Israel or the Jewish people. Because if I argued like a pro-Palestinian, I would just say to somebody defending Egypt's actions, like, well, but they're sending tanks. What would they do? The reason for tanks is to fire upon people, right? What do the civilians have? They just have sandals and sticks. How are they going to fight against tanks? Nope, not a word, because they don't care. Because it was never about being pro-Palestinian. It was just about being anti-Israel. Yeah, quick question. How come none of even the surrounding Arab countries who stand with you guys want you? Well, when they were in Jordan, they did, assassinate their prime minister, S.Real, in 1971. And other assassination attempts of leadership in Jordan by the Black September terrorist group, same group that did the Munich massacre in Germany. And of course, there was the Palestinian insurgency in Lebanon, led to the civil war there, killing over 150,000 people. Well, what about Egypt? Oh, that's right. You guys remember when the Palestinians assassinated an Egyptian editor and a confidant of Anwar Sadat? Mr. Sadat was the third president of Egypt, and the Palestinians deemed him a traitor just because he visited Jerusalem. I can keep going, but it seems to be the problem not being Israel. In fact, Israel has made some peace with some of the countries that I mentioned. Even just a generation before that peace, they were calling for the destruction of Israel. Now, of course, pro-Palestinians will never admit to that. They'll just fall into some conspiracy excuse. Oh, the Zionists control all of our own governments and military. That's the only reason. Yeah, sure, bud. Anyways, the only other thing that's common is that you won't see them talk about this at all because, again, for the final time, they are not pro-Palestinian. They're anti-Israel. I'm Yisrael Chai. Have a good day.
So, lovelies, apparently, due to what has been going on between the people of Gaza and the people of Israel, because of the genocide that have been going on for quite some time now. So, Palestinian people, that's Gaza people, were moved to a certain border that has a border between them and the Egypt people. So they told them that this particular place which they've been moved into will be a safe place for them. It will be a very nice place for them to, get shelter, maybe food, clothes, and etc. So these people, the remaining people that had their life, after what has happened in the past and all of that, decided to have trust and faith that, okay, they have actually provided somewhere for us, somewhere that's a little bit safe for us to at least lay our heads, to at least eat food, or even, shelter and all of that. They have these high hopes. So due to what's have been happening, that South Africa also, sue these people, sue the Israel people concerning what has been happening, which they have been clamoring for a ceasefire, which at the end of the day, the international court did not actually call for a ceasefire, but they actually did something. They gave some little hope, for to everyone. At least there should be precautions. They talked about how there should be precautions and how this case should be looked into. And they also promised that they're going to provide, a safe place, a safe guide for these less people. They also promised that this should be looked into truly or thoroughly. So after all this whole thing, after what has been going on from last year up to this, do you know that these people were not even able to celebrate the holiday just the way other people were able to celebrate the holidays? So they were not even able to celebrate the holiday. Everything, was just, everybody was just trying to survive and all of that, including infants, old people, aged people, pregnant women, and so on. So this has been happening for quite some time. That also even made the South African government to, come for a rescue, at least to some extent, because nobody, none of this other country was even able to that made or that also led to one of the South African judge to stand with Israel. So after all this said and done, and we were trying to, relax a little bit, at least we know that something is going to be worked out. At least everybody was trying to say, okay, even if there is no recall for a ceasefire, at least something about all this genocide, a lot of them have been reduced drastically compared to before. Anytime we go online or internet,
breaking news: Egypt has sent 40-some tanks to the Sinai up against the Gaza border to prevent any Gazans from fleeing into their country.
Everybody would just
remember, the Egyptian prime minister said the country would sacrifice a million of their lives to make sure the Gazans do not enter into that land. How many
right now, so
pro-Palestinians do you guys think are protesting, rioting, talking about, making videos
people
about
have been,
these extreme measures that Egypt is taking
private,
to prevent what we should assume is just civilians? But I guess that's
and people are trying to,
right?
adjust and try to move on.
About if it has nothing to do with
even
Israel
if
or Jewish people.
all of those things that these people have lost
I would
at
just
the
say to
cost
somebody
of,
defending Egypt's actions,
this genocide cannot
they're
be
sending
replaced.
tanks. What
a
would
lot of
they
people
do? The reason for tanks is to fire upon people,
lives,
right? What do the civilians have? They just have
investments
sandals
and all
and
of
sticks.
that,
How are they going to fight against tanks?
which
nope,
cannot
not a
be
word, because
replaced.
they don't care. Because it was never
So
about being
people
pro-Palestinian,
started
it was just
moving
about being
on
anti-Israel.
like a big.
Yeah, quick question. Yeah,
Then,
none of even the surrounding
after
Arab
everything,
countries who
they were
stand
told
with
to,
you guys want you.
relocate
Well, when they were in
to
Jordan, they did
a place that has a border
assassinate their
between
prime
them
minister,
and
Wasif
Egypt,
Saleh, in
and
1971.
the other
and
side
other
also have a
assassination
border
attempts of
between them
leadership
and
in Jordan by the Black September terrorist
Israel.
group, same
So
group that
they
did the
are
Munich
at
massacre
the
in
middle
Germany.
right now.
And of course, there was the Palestinian
So
insurgency
they are
in
at the
Lebanon,
middle.
led to the
There is
civil
no
war
airport,
there, killing over 150,000
before
people.
they go to an
What
airport
about
or
Egypt?
something,
Oh,
they
that's
must
right.
pass
You guys
through
remember
either
when the Palestinians
Egypt
assassinated an
or
Egyptian editor
Israel, I
and a
think.
confidant of
All
Anwar
right.
Sadat? Mr.
So,
Sadat was the
it
third
happens
president
that
of Egypt,
there
and
is
the
a,
Palestinians deemed him a
war
traitor just because he visited
that is
Jerusalem.
going
I can
on
keep going,
that got
but it seems to
everybody,
be the problem not being Israel.
that got everybody
In
distracted.
fact, Israel has
People
made some peace
people
with
are
some of the
watching
countries that I
it,
mentioned.
a lot of
Even just a
concerts,
generation before that
they're
peace,
going
they were
on,
calling for the
and
destruction of Israel.
these
Now, of course,
people
pro-Palestinians will never admit to
actually
that. They'll just fall
picked
into
a
some
day
conspiracy
during the
excuse
course
of
of this
Zionists control
celebration,
all of
because
our own
they should make
governments
people
and
not to
military.
go,
That's the only reason. Yeah,
as in
sure, bud.
go
Anyways, the only other thing that's common is that you won't see them talk about this at all because, again, for the final time, they are not pro-Palestinian. They're
they choose
anti-Israel.
the
I'm
same
Israel. Hi.
day
Have a good day.
to go, throw a bomb to these people. The same place that they were told is gonna be a safeguard for them. The same place that they were told they were gonna start up their life there. They actually went there and decided to do all of this to these people. They decided not to even, thought about the aged people there, the pregnant women there, etc. They decided to go through the stuff there, and no one is saying anything. Everybody is just moving on. The internet is not talking about it, and we are thinking that this thing is something that has been resolved. Would that tell us now that these people actually are the cause of the problems? Like, is it that the HAMAS is actually in that safeguard place that they decided to throw stuffs there that ended up unaliving multiples, unaliving underaged, without them even thinking, without having a second thought about it, without having a human feeling, human sympathy. Like, what triggers them to do such thing? What was the reason for this act now? Where do they want these people now to hide? To hide? Like, what is actually going on? Where is it that they want these people to hide?
Breaking news,
The
Egypt
same
has sent
place that they
40
were
some
told they were
tanks
gonna
to
be
the
okay.
Sinai up against the Gaza
They
border
were gonna,
to prevent
start
any
up their
Gazans
life
from
there.
fleeing into their country. Remember, the
Like,
Egyptian
they wanna
Prime Minister
start off with
said
the
the country would
pieces of their
sacrifice
lives.
1 million of their
You
lives
people also
to make
went
sure
there
the
to
Gazans
go.
do not enter into
Like,
that land.
what is
How many
actually going
pro-Palestinians
on?
do you guys think
This
are
is
protesting,
not
writing, talking
funny
about,
anymore.
making videos about
This
these
is-
extreme
this is-
measures
this
that
needs
Egypt
an
is taking
emergency.
to prevent what
Like,
we should assume
seriously.
is just civilians? But I guess that's
This
just
is
an
not
internal conflict,
nice
right?
at
Doesn't
all.
really matter. Not worth talking
The same
about.
people that you guys were saying that, okay,
if I argued like a
you
pro-Palestinian,
guys are sick right now.
I would just say to
And
somebody defending Egypt's
Egypt
actions, like,
are not even
but they're
helping
sending
matter.
tanks. What would they
Like,
do?
what
The
is
reason
all
for
of
tanks
this?
is to fire upon people.
What is happening?
Right?
What
do the
has these
civilians have?
people
They just have
ever done?
sandals
Where
and
is it that they
sticks. How are
want
they
them
gonna
to
fight
go
against
right now?
tanks? Nope, not a word.
Where
because
do they
don't
want them
care.
to go
Because
start
it was
up
never
their
about
life?
being pro-Palestinian. It was
If
just
they
about being
can actually
anti-Israel.
attack them
Yeah, quick question.
in a place that's
how come
felt-
none of even
that
the
they felt
surrounding
is gonna
Arab
be safe
countries who stand
for
with
them?
you guys?
They're just
want
trying
you?
all
Well, when they were in
means
Jordan, they did
to get these people
assassinate
out
their
from
prime
this
minister,
land.
Wafd Sal, in 1971. And other
This world
assassination
is just
attempts
too
of
big
leadership
for
in Jordan
everybody.
by the Black
This
September
world
terrorist group,
is
same group that did the
too
Munich
big
massacre in
to
Germany. And of course, there was the
occupy
Palestinian insurgency in
everyone.
Lebanon, led to the
What are
civil
we
war there,
fighting
killing
for?
over
What are
150,000
we
people.
dragging
But what
at?
about Egypt?
What is
Ah, that's
all
right. You
of
guys remember
this?
when the Palestinians assassinated an
What are we
Egyptian
fighting
editor
for?
and a confidant of
This entire
Anwar
world
Sadat?
is so
Mr.
big
Sadat was
for
the third
everyone.
president of Egypt, and the
What is it
Palestinians
that
deemed him a traitor just because he visited Jerusalem. I can keep going, but it seems to be the problem not being Israel.
The life unbearable.
In fact, Israel
Why
has made
are
some
you
peace with
making
some of the
them see
countries that
this
I
kind of
mentioned.
thing that will
Even
never
just a generation
escape
before that peace,
their
they were
memory
calling for the destruction of
growing up?
Israel. Now, of course,
Do you know
pro-Palestinians
this
will never
will- do you
admit
know
to
what
that. They'll
this
just
will
fall into
cause?
some conspiracy
The life
excuse. Oh, the
of
Zionists
those
control all of
innocents.
our own governments
Like,
and military.
seriously,
That's the
Loveless.
only reason. Yeah,
When I
sure,
saw
but
this, I was
anyways,
like,
the only other
not
thing that's
again. I
common
was
is that you
thinking that
won't
all
see
of
them
this
talk
has
about this
gone
at all
in the
because,
loop.
again, for the
And then
final time,
everyone
they
is
are
moving on right
not
now.
pro-Palestinian.
Well, boom.
They're anti-Israel.
Here we
I'm
are.
Yisroel Chai. Have a good day.
Yet again. Here we are yet again. We are going back and forth. I was thinking since the international law has gotten, involved in all of this, things are going to lie low. I'm just going to check what is happening in Congo to know the update. And guys, if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for all the love and support. My name is Belinda Stranad. Subscribe to my channel for more update and juicy stories and what's happening all over the world. Don't forget to please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section and do me a huge favor to share this video, please, to get to the larger audience. Share, subscribe to my channel if you're here to do that. And I will see you lovelies when I upload my next. have watched up to this extent, thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not also forget that this channel does not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We are just here for educational purposes, guys. So please share this video, subscribe to my channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you on this one.